4.3, we're solving absolute value and square root equations. The only difference between the two is that with square root or with absolute value equations, you will have to set it up twice. So, for instance, with number 1, I'm going to say that x minus 5 equals 7. So x equals 12. And then I'm also going to say x minus 5 equals a negative 7. So the first thing you want to do is get everything to where you only have the absolute value on one side. You have the numbers on the other side of the equal sign, and then you set it to the positive and to the negative. So x equals 12, and then x equals negative 2. So I'm going to have two answers. For number 2, I'm going to say that 5x minus 10 equals 45. So 5x equals 55, x equals 11. And then 5x minus 10 equals negative 45. So x equals negative 7. The next 3 I feel confident that you'll be able to accomplish. If you want to look at the answers on Canvas, then I have the answers to those as well. I'm going to skip down to the next ones. So for number 7 and 8, you could have something where you have an extraneous solution. So checking your solutions is important. But I will tell you that the only time you need to check your solutions is if you have an x on the other side of the equal sign. That's the only time that you would potentially have an extraneous solution. So I'm going to solve, and I'm going to say 2x plus 12 equals 4x. Subtract. So negative 2x equals negative 12. I just moved the 12 over, moved the 4 over. So x equals 6. Then I'm going to say that 2x plus 12 equals negative 4x. And so 6x equals negative 12. X equals negative 2. Now, whenever I want to check my solution to see if I have anything extraneous, I'm going to plug them back in for x. I'm going to plug in 6 for both. So 2 times 6 plus 12 equals 4 times 6. So 2 times 6 is 12. 12 plus 12 is the absolute value of 24 equals 24. That works. So you have positive on the right side. However, when I plug in negative 2, you get 2 times negative 2 plus 12 equals 4 times negative 2. So then you get the absolute value of negative 4 plus 12 becomes positive 8 equals negative 8. That is false. So my only answer is 6. Because when I plug in a negative 2, I have a negative 8 on the right side, and 8 does not equal negative 8. So I would say that this is extraneous. Try the next one. So 2x plus 5 equals 3x. Negative x equals negative 5. X equals 5. 2x plus 5 equals negative 3x. 5x equals negative 5. X equals negative 1. And if you wanted to check your solutions, you could, but I'm going to let you know that what the negative 1 is always going to be the extraneous. So this is the extraneous one, so my only answer is x equals 5. When you are solving square root equations, you do not have to set it up twice like an absolute value. So you only have to solve once. So to solve, you're going to isolate the radical term. That means you just want the radical on the left, and you want everything else on the right. So you only want the radical on the left, which is the square root. You want everything else on the right. Raise to the appropriate power to get rid of the radical. So if it's a square root, then I'm going to square it. If it were a cube root, I would cube it. If it were a fourth root, I would raise it to the fourth power. I'm going to solve for x. Remember to check your solutions. If the answer does not work, it is extraneous. So for number 9, I just want to raise it to the opposite power, so I would square both sides. So x equals 25. Number 10, I'm going to square both sides, so x plus 12 equals 100. Then I'm going to subtract 12. So when I subtract 12, I get x equals 88. This one I want to add 4 first. So when I add 4, I get the square root of x equals 11. Then x equals 121. For number 12, I want to multiply each side by its reciprocal, so I multiply each side by 2. So then that cancels. I get the square root of x equals 10, so x equals 100. For this one, I'm going to subtract 1 from each side, so the square root of 3x minus 8 equals 2. I square both sides, so 3x minus 8 equals 4. That I got from squaring. And so 3x equals 12, x equals 4. You would do the same thing for 14. If I look at number 15, I want to, anytime you're trying to solve, or you're trying to isolate the radical, think about doing PEMDAS backwards. And so what I mean by that is I want to add subtract first. So I want to add subtract first. So I'm going to add the 4 first. So 2x minus 1 equals 12. Then I want to multiply divide second. So if this is 2, this is 1. So here I'm going to divide each side by 2. So the square root of x minus 1 equals 6. Then you do exponent parentheses. So exponent would be squaring each side. That's step 3. So square each side. X minus 1 equals 36. So x equals 37. You would do the same thing for 16.